Let's go.
Rowdy Ronda Rousey. Hell of a woman she is, huh? Yeah, she's a rowdy one, isn't she? 2008 Olympic Games judo bronze medalist, the first UFC bantamweight champ, and now a WWE superstar. She made splashes left and right in the MMA world, starting with her dominant Strikeforce run, which then brought her into a position to be gifted the UFC bantamweight belt, which she then defended in the first women's UFC bout versus Liz Carmouche. She went on to have an extremely impressive championship run that was talked about even outside of the MMA community. After having a level of stardom in the UFC that is rivaled only by Conor McGregor, she solidified herself as maybe the most impactful figure of women's MMA. What's up, guys? I have quite a few of my own opinions on Ronda Rousey, so let's get into them, starting with her. We all witnessed Ronda's stunning title reign that ultimately ended in her fight against Holly Holm. That fight is said to be one of the greatest upsets in UFC history. Ronda arrived on the damn MMA scene professionally in Strikeforce in 2011, and since she started, almost all of her wins came via armbar, damn near all of them. Her high-level judo background gave her a leg up in the grappling department against literally all of her opponents. It was judo that gave her the ability to throw her opponents around like damn ragdolls and find the submission with usual ease. She stayed embarrassing the likes of Miesha Tate, Julia Budd, and Kat Zingano, to name a few. Her control in the clinch and on the mat was a spectacle, and it's why people's interests were piqued. The casual fans that jumped on the bandwagon after a few armbar wins in the UFC thought that because she was f***ing these women up, she must be a real fighter's fighter. She must also have slick striking. She must have f***ing knockout power. Ronda's striking skills on the feet were nothing special in my extremely humble opinion. Her striking worked well enough to set up throws and takedowns, but if she ever went into a fight fully relying on her striking, which she kinda did, she would get humbled, which she kinda did. But nonetheless, the false narrative that she was a complete badass wherever the fight was taken was brought farther with her official knockout wins against Alexis Davis and Betch Correia. I don't often label MMA wins as flukes, but if there was ever a fluke win in MMA, it was Ronda's win against Betch Correia. Betch Correia wasn't the best fighter in the UFC, but the fight between her and Ronda probably shouldn't have played out the way it did, if that makes any sense. The humbling and exposing of Ronda Rousey came in her last two fights, which ended like this. I don't mean to end this section on a sour note, so all in all, Ronda was a high-level grappler whose striking was good enough to aid in her game plans. I'm giving her an 8.3 out of 10 for fighting ability, the most respected opinion in MMA. Me, Andy P.
Yes, my mind's completely in the gutter. I'm picturing you naked right now.
Wow.
If I remember correctly, at the peak of Ronda's fame, I remember the MMA community having kind of mixed feelings on Ronda Rousey, while the general public just simply loved her. I personally thought she was an exciting person to watch, from weigh-ins to face-offs to the fights themselves. I was always tuning in to see what she would do or say to or about her opponents.
You used to wipe in so the other hand.
With that said, she had undertones of cringe in her public persona, which turned me off from her a bit, to be honest.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna have to apologize to Mr. Brown. He won't be able to eat my ass for a week.
She fittingly had WWE vibes. The Ronda I saw before the weight of the world was on her shoulders was a real one. She spoke the truth, and her truth was an honest, open, refreshing truth. Leading up to her first fight with Miesha Tate in Strikeforce, her and Miesha went back and forth in a respectful but honest manner. It was clear they didn't see eye to eye, but they also didn't hate each other, and they weren't trying to ruin each other's goddamn lives.
I think that she probably would try to keep it standing, because that's one part of my game that no one has seen, and they assume that it's not there. So that's what most of the girls that I've fought have tried to do so far, but it hasn't worked out very well for any of them either. So
The rivalry with Misha was carried over into the UFC, where they, because of their background, were both chosen to become the first female coaches in the history of The Ultimate Fighter. It was obvious, especially from this point, that Ronda was trying to turn her persona up a notch, to be someone that she wasn't. All the while, Misha was approaching their rivalry just as she had in the past.
Do you know where he is?
I don't. So we're not gonna be having any slumber parties anytime soon.
They said she's here to coach.
Can you please move away from my boyfriend?
I'm really not sitting near your boyfriend. I don't think anyone with half a brain would desire a man like that.
I respect her as a fighter. She's an athlete. She goes down, man. She's got balls. I'm gonna break this girl to the point where she's never gonna be able to put a string of wins together again. But I don't feel the least bit sorry for breaking her arm in half.
While I could see easily through the bullshit of that forced rivalry, I would be lying if I said I wasn't excited to see their rematch. Ronda's shoddy and exhaustive heel character worked really well for the rest of her career, especially for the general public, but, you know, for me it was just annoying. It was so goddamn annoying. I couldn't take it anymore. She was a bad bitch. All the way up until she got knocked out by Holly Holm. Actually, after that, she went back to being a bad bitch. Yeah, she was a real bad bitch again, but then she got knocked out by Amanda Nunes. And now she's a WWE person, which in my opinion is a better fit because most of those guys are cringe over there. Speaking on likability as a whole, Ronda was a pretty bad actor in the build-up to all her fights, but people chose to ignore the fact that her persona was heavily fabricated. It was this persona paired with her dominant wins that grabbed the world by the balls and made the people squeal her name.
Ronda, Ronda,
Objectively, observationally, I'm gonna give Ronda a solid 8 out of 10 for likability.
Is this all this booze? Does this bother you at all?
No, man. When I did judo, I got booed and
Could Ronda sell out an arena at the peak of her career? Yes.
Ronda.
As I mentioned earlier, she was a gold mine for the UFC.
Ronda.
There is no argument that she is the second biggest star ever to come out of the organization. She was bigger than MMA. She was a global brand, a good-looking woman, an accomplished combat sports staple, an icon, naked on the cover of ESPN magazine. She may have been the most famous athlete in the world at one point. So hearing that, it's easy to see how her name shows up more than once in the UFC's top 20 best-selling pay-per-views of all time. I don't know what else to say about her ability to sell herself. People were drawn to her, whether it was through amazement or despisement.
Ronda.
She got people to sit the hell down
Ronda.
and watch her fight. Ronda gets a 10 out of 10 for saleability.
Ronda.
Actually, you know what? I also gave Colby Covington and Chael Sonnen 10 out of 10, so I gotta give Ronda an 11 out of 10. I gotta bump it up a little bit, because God knows she deserves an 11 out of 10 in this category. She deserves everything she's ever gotten. She's a goddess among us. Overall, in terms of star power, Ronda gets a 9.1 out of 10. She did more for women's MMA than any other woman came close to doing. She brought WMMA to the UFC, and because of her, we've seen many stars come out of the women's divisions following her departure. She continues to entertain the masses in the WWE, and I don't watch that junk, but it seems as though she's been killing it. Her legacy is cemented, and no matter how cringe she continues to get, what she's done and how impactful she was is going nowhere.
If you can't dream big, ridiculous dreams, what's the use of dreaming at all? You want to talk about what's next?
Bronze medalist and the first women's UFC champ, Rowdy Ronda Rousey, everyone. Thank you for watching this edition of Fighter Review. I would love it if you press that subscribe button below this video. I would also love it if you press that like button. Also, leave a comment if you feel so inclined. Comment with who you want me to review next, and maybe I'll do it. I'm only reviewing retired fighters now, by the way.